Dengue fever is very prevalent in all tropical regions of the world, starting from Latin America to Africa and Asia, especially Southeast Asia, where you have so many cases every year. The WHO is considered at least 500,000 cases of more or less symptomatic dengue fever a year. When I say symptomatic, because a lot of people will be bitten by mosquitoes, the disease which is transmitted by a certain type of mosquitoes. And when we do some review of the possible contamination in one country, for instance, like Thailand, we will see that 80 to 90% of the people have been already in contact with the virus. Most of them did not exhibit the symptoms. Unfortunately, when the symptoms happen, in a few percentage of that cases, then it can trigger to serious disease. So that's why people know dengue as potentially a serious disease when they come to Asia. The main reservoir of the virus is a virus. Some family called Favivirus type. There are 4 strains, 1, 2, 3, 4, which can infect humans. And usually the vector, which is a mosquito, will have a meal from our blood by biting us, get some blood, and there will be some viruses which will be injected. The viruses will mature inside the body of the virus, of the mosquito, and the mosquito will go somewhere else, biting someone and transmitting the disease from one person to another via a mosquito vector. So you cannot get by drinking low quality water or food. It's not at all, it's totally different. It's just because you are bitten by a mosquito, which is infected with a virus. And the virus needs to bite humans because it's a female mosquito which needs blood to make the production of eggs. It looks like something related to flu symptoms, viral infections. You can feel that you are going to get some kind of malaise, fever will come also, and then you have chills. The characteristic of dengue is it goes very quickly. From being totally normal, half an hour later, you really feel so sick to the point that I cannot drive back home. But this is much more intense when they have the symptoms, because again, a lot of people will not have the symptoms or minor symptoms, they will even not notice. But when the dengue is symptomatic, it's very acute, very brutal, I must say. And the feeling of having a really serious infections which happen all over your body, basically. There is an incubation period, about 4 to 7 days. So you are bitten today, you are not going to have symptoms today. Impossible. And billions of virus will go in the body inducing all the symptoms. And one of the main symptoms is fever. Fever is produced by contraction of the muscle, especially the legs and the muscle at the back. And that's why people describe fever, dengue fever as breakbone fever before. The core symptoms is acute infection, looks like flu, but more severe than flu, basically, and more quickly than flu. Then high fever, headache, and pain all over the body because of the need to produce heat to fight the virus. Fever is something which is good. It's a mechanism of defense against virus. And fever should not be immediately treated and bring down to 37. It's good to treat fever what is very uncomfortable, but let some fever like 38, 38.5, if you can tolerate, especially for adults, there is no need to go further down. So let the fever do the job as limiting the progression of the virus. It will be even a very big concern if during viral infections there is no fever. Dengue will evolve, I must say, with or without treatment, because there is no treatment, no antiviral product for that. It is only supporting treatment. The symptoms will remain about the same, with high fever for several days, headache. Some people will vomit more easily than others, and a lot of, being exhausted, totally exhausted. I speak by experience. I have 2 cases to experience of dengue myself. I feel really drained. All my energy was drained. So I have to crawl basically to go from one place to another. But it's interesting to know about dengue fever. So normally it's about 5 to 6, 7 days. Then symptoms will totally disappear. And recovery will still happen a few weeks later because it's a big stress on all the body. So you cannot expect to run a marathon after finishing the dengue fever. I stay at home.
Okay.
I just wait for the symptoms to disappear progressively. I just took paracetamol once in a while because the fever was getting too high.
Okay.
But what is important is to keep drinking because you sweat a lot, so you can be dehydrated. So you have to keep hydrating yourself. And you have to watch if there is any sign of hemorrhage. That's most important because from the symptomatic case, which just doesn't need to go to hospital, which is most of the case again, some people will have hemorrhagic complications. But you have different levels of hemorrhagic complications. The first level is what we call a red spot on the skin. It's called petechia in medical terms. It's a red spot when you can have all over the body, including a rash also. There is a rash happening a few days after the start. But this sign of hemorrhage is, you have to press with your finger on it and it will not disappear. You will see the red spot. Contrary to a mosquito bite, when you press it, it goes back to white. It can be internal bleeding, but you don't wait up to this point.
Okay.
So normally when people start to have a sign of red spot or bleeding on the gums when brushing the teeth, so it's time to see a doctor. But it doesn't mean that the person will have to be hospitalized all the time.
Okay.
Most of the time the recovery is fine at a hotel, if they are travelers, or at home. Supporting symptoms. So most of the time, there is no real complications, except minor hemorrhagic complications like I described before. But sometimes it can be more than that. And so much more that there will be a possibility of a shock, cardiovascular shock. But what happened in dengue is also the inability of the vessel to keep all the water inside the vessel, inside the blood, basically. And this will induce removal of liquid from the blood, going out of the vessel. And that will induce a cardiovascular shock because a lot of water will go out of cardiovascular system. And that is something which has to be treated now, immediately in very good intensive care unit, not in let's say a clinic. That's why it's important for travelers, if they have these initial symptoms, they are concerned, can be concerned, especially if they have pre-existing conditions or underlying conditions like heart problem or pulmonary problem. So it's better to get closer to a main city with a hospital which is a decent intensive care unit in case you need some support. Luckily, most of the time it does not happen. Every year, some people have some kind of additional weaknesses, I must say, and they can pass away because of the dengue fever. But generally, it's a disease which is more or less relatively minor for most of the case. You have also other type of tropical disease which can look like dengue also, which is malaria. You can get malaria, but not in the city. There is no malaria in Bangkok. Malaria is around the border, mainly in the forest region. But dengue can be still there. But on top of that, dengue is also very prevalent in main cities. Kids, expatriate kids which live here, most of them in the city, can be affected by dengue, but they will not be getting malaria unless they go with the parents to do some trekking. Okay. Malaria cases among expats living in Bangkok, for instance, is very rare, but dengue is more common. Because if they go to trekking, they can also get malaria, and malaria can be also an emergency, the same as dengue. So in that case, if they exhibit the symptoms of something which looks like a serious flu, so it's better to stop the trekking, tell the friends, I think it's better that we start going back to our place, or where we have a, let's say, a possibility to go a decent hospital with intensive care unit. That's better. It doesn't mean that they have to go to intensive care or go to the hospital, but not to be, let's say, too isolated when they have this kind of symptoms.
Okay.
Whether it is malaria or dengue, it's not good to say, oh, never mind, it's just a flu or just a cold infection. Maybe it is, but it can be also dengue or malaria. So it's better to have access to medical care. You have two aspects. One is to try to avoid being bitten by too many mosquitoes. I say too many because when you come to Thailand, you cannot totally be not exposed one day to a mosquito bite. Okay, it's practically impossible. But you can minimize the number of these mosquito bites, especially for the young kids, because what I forgot to mention earlier is the main people being affected by serious dengue are children below 4 years old. Okay, so these people are more at risk of having even a dengue shock and more difficult to contain in that case. And it's not good to let the kids playing in some area where you have still a lot of still water when the mosquito can breed there and be bitten sometimes 20 times every evening. So they have to minimize this kind of mosquito exposure. And if they go to the jungle, for instance, of course they have to use mosquito net when they sleep, and also use repellent, mosquito repellent also. There are some strains which are more effective than others. The one which is mainly used is DEET, which is a kind of chemical which is more effective and safe for children also, yes. Vaccine is a very big question here.
Yes.
There is a French company who developed a vaccine against the dengue called Dengue, which brought a lot of hope that they could really control so many cases every year on dengue. The issue is, number one, you have 4 strains. When you get dengue, you will be getting a permanent immunity against that particular strain. I will not get second time this dengue, but I can get the rest, the 2, 3, and 4, which probably I get when I come here. So I got already two strains. Hopefully,
catch them all.
I hope it's enough. And what is important, which I probably missed to say, is when you get the first dengue, the second dengue may be more severe than the first one. Normally, when you get infected once, like with flu, the second flu will be less severe, residual immunity against the second flu. But for dengue, this residual immunity goes against you, which means the antibodies, instead of killing the virus, bring the virus to other places in the body. So contrary to what they are supposed to do. And that's why the second episode can be more severe. So by explaining this, back to the vaccine.
Yes.
What they realize with the vaccine is once you are vaccinated, if you never were infected before the vaccine will work like a prime infection. So it means when you will be bitten by a mosquito, giving you the wild strain of the virus at that time, then you will have a more severe dengue infections than the people who have not been vaccinated. But for those who have been already exposed, like many Thai people, most of them have been already exposed to the virus. So if you give vaccine to these people, yes, it works. That's why it's difficult for the public health system to vaccinate everyone. For instance, it's not logical to vaccinate Europeans coming for the first time in Thailand because they have never been exposed to the virus. But for the Thai people, having the possible risk of having a second infection, even if the first one was not really symptomatic, the vaccination will prevent the severe case of dengue for these Thai people. And the vaccine is not indicated below 9 years old. It's also an issue because, as I told you, the main group at risk is 4. So the vaccine is interesting still, but not the hope and the great success which we were expected. Even though there are very few cases of dengue in Europe, the virus, the mosquito can travel by plane also and go there.
Yes.
And some can have local transmission, but it's quite rare. Most of the Europeans coming here are native, are totally naive of any dengue exposure.
Yes.
So these people, vaccination, I don't think it's recommended. No, what they should be aware is when you get a dengue, and especially symptomatic one, I'm not talking for those who unfortunately will have a shock, which is very rare. We consider that about 5 to 10% of people having dengue infections will exhibit symptoms. Among those who have symptoms, like flu symptoms,
Yes.
about 10% will get some hemorrhagic symptoms, like a petechiae, but not serious. And 5% of those who exhibit some minor hemorrhagic symptoms will have a tendency, you have a possibility to go to more severe, what we call hemorrhagic shock of dengue fever. Yeah. There is a prolonged period where you are still very tired, not energetic at all. You are just like every infection you get, you have to listen to your body and wait for the time to recover and to do your normal exercise. No. Traditionally, when you recover dengue, at least you are safe forever for this strain.
Yes.
But you may have another strain, and unfortunately, it might be more severe than the first one. Dengue is something they have to be aware.
Yes.
They have to understand the symptoms. Again, as a summary, if you have something which looks like a severe flu, don't continue trekking. Go back to a place where you can have access to a hospital. But if not, you should not be too much worried about this, because millions of people come to Thailand and to Asia, and luckily most of them, vast majority of them, have no problem with dengue.